Hello, is the Sinister Gambino here with a new video. In this video I'm going to be doing my review and guide on the Nagasaki Ultralight. So as of right now it's temporarily free as part of like current event week, but normally it's like $500,000. And without a trade price it's $665,000, and the way you get the trade price is by doing free air freight selling missions, I believe. But I believe when you first get a hangar, it already comes with like free random things of cargo, so it's really easy to get those free sell missions done with an ease if you're just getting into a hangar, of course. And yeah, you do need a hangar to get the vehicle, of course. And as for modifications, the highlight modifications are for sure the propellers and then the Gimbal Turret weapon. As for the other stuff, that kind of stuff's mostly on other aircrafts as well, of course. As for the performance of the vehicle though, it is 32nd place in terms of lap time, making it 5th worst for the whole entire planes class between all 36 vehicles in that class, of course. And then for top speed, it's the literal worst between all 36 of the vehicles in the plane class. And this is all as of 2018, like late 2018 from where I'm getting this from, but I don't think there's been a plane since like mid 2018, so it should be up to date. And credit for the placements goes to Ruffy 1322. Next, I wanted to show off that this vehicle actually cannot reach the maximum altitude of the map. As you can see, I'm trying to reach the maximum, but it pulls me down eventually at some point, so satellite cannot reach maximum height. And I'm showing its weapon, showing how good it is on a couple of different vehicles. I used the Havoc from the same update as the Ultralight, of course, the Cargo Bob, and then one of the armored vehicles from the CO menu. It was like a Baller LELWB or something like that. But yeah, the Havoc took like 2 seconds, I think Cargo Bob took like 5, and then the Baller LELWB armored took like 3 seconds, I believe. After that, I wanted to show off that you can actually enter passive mode in the vehicle for whatever reason, even though it's weaponized, which is really weird. But that's also a thing of a couple other vehicles, at least, as I've shown off before. And I also showed off how it spawns in as well, I believe. I destroyed it, and it has like a 5-minute cooldown as it's classified as a personal aircraft, and it is always classified as a personal aircraft since it's never able to be a Pegasus vehicle. And then as for the damage resistance test, it took like 600 rounds of an advanced rifle, I believe, in order for the vehicle to get entirely destroyed, and obviously before that it got disabled. And then it also took like 20... to be exact, I believe, of the up and atomizer. It only took like 20 shots of that to destroy it as well. As for explosive resistance, I was actually quite shocked to see the Ultralight take more than a single explosive, because I don't even know if having explosive resistance on a vehicle like this would be useful at all. I wouldn't think so, because I assume when you're flying it, you would easily get destroyed with one homing launcher. But yeah, at RPG, it took 2 missiles of that in order to destroy the vehicle. And then with the minigun, I believe it took around 900 in order to fully destroy it. That was quite interesting. And then for the homing launcher, it took 3 missiles in order to destroy the Nagasaki Ultralight. And then I do an explosive sniper test last, and that took 3 rounds, I'm pretty sure, in order to destroy it. As for why I did an advanced rifle and an up and atomizer test, it's a very fragile vehicle, of course, so I wanted to kind of show a couple extra weapons similar to what I did with the thruster jetpack. So how exactly does the Ultralight do in VIP work? Well, honestly, it was really hard for sure to find much of a money opportunity for the Ultralight, to be honest. It's not really good in terms of PvE, even, I would say. Unless you're shooting up an air vehicle, the gun's not really want to do much. Especially for a ground vehicle, the gun's not really want to do much. And obviously, as it's an air vehicle, I wanted to keep it in the air, so it would have been kind of unfair, I feel, to actually use it on the ground. So yeah, best I found with the Ultralight was Sightseer. But even then, there's better options for sure for the Sightseer VIP work. But yeah, at least it's something. And yeah, for contact missions, I usually like to have a contact mission that a vehicle is good at as well. But yeah, there was no contact mission that immediately came to mind that the Ultralight would actually be good at. So, to substitute for that, I did an air freight source mission to kind of show off the stealth capabilities of the vehicle as well. So if I need the footage for that, of course, that will be later in the video. But on to the pros and cons list, which for pros, I believe I came up with 22, and for cons, I believe I came up with 17. But first pro I have is it's pretty maneuverable, nimble, and agile. And this is something kind of similar with like the Buzzard and Thruster. Those are really good at being agile and nimble and all that stuff. Meaning they can get in tight spaces pretty well and whatnot. Ultralight can somewhat do that too, but because it's more of a plane compared to those two being more like helicopters in terms of how they handle, of course. It's not as good as those vehicles, but still, it does that pretty well, I would say. Second pro I have is it's great at taking off. But yeah, when it comes to taking off, there's been times where I barely even have to hold the accelerator and it kind of takes off on its own. So it's definitely very good at taking off, which is something very good with this vehicle. Also, other aircrafts don't take off anywhere near as well. But yeah, third pro I have is it's great at reversing. Though honestly, I don't know if this is more of a like typical airplane thing or not. I don't know if a lot of like planes do that in the game or not. But especially with this vehicle, it's very obvious that it's very great at reversing. But yeah, fourth pro I have is it has a very controllable gimbal turret. The reason I worded it like that is because you can like shoot in all different kinds of angles and degrees and all that stuff. Whereas a lot of other vehicles, like machine guns on them are fixed and static, meaning that you have to like move the vehicle around in order to shoot it in certain spots and whatnot. So having a lot of control with the gimbal turret is definitely very nice. As not so useful as it is against ground targets and stuff like that, as I explained earlier, it's still nice regardless. Fifth pro I have is it has countermeasures, pretty much just like every other customizable aircraft, from Smuggler's Run onward. Any vehicles that have just a respray option, obviously you don't really have the countermeasures. So yeah, it's nice this vehicle has countermeasures, of course. Next pro I have is it can manage some tight spaces, which kind of goes into the first pro as well, as I mentioned. And I said some tight spaces with this one. With previous reviews I did, like with the Buzzard and the Jetpack, I mentioned that those can like go in like pretty much any tight space. They can go in quite tight spaces. This can kind of do that as well, but obviously since it's more plane based, it's not going to do as good in that regard. That's why I put some tight spaces for this one. Next pro I have is it's currently a free vehicle. And it's only going to last for this event week, of course, which ends in less than 24 hours by the time it's going to be uploaded. But hopefully I get this uploaded by the time where the event week's still around, at least for a small bit at least. So yeah, it'll probably be uploaded barely before the next event week at latest. But yeah, next pro I have is it's a very cheap vehicle, so even if you don't get it for free, it's $500,000 with a trade price, and without a trade price, $665,000. And once again, for a trade price, you have to do like free like air freight sell missions, which, as I mentioned, it's pretty easy to do because I believe when you first get a hangar, it already comes with like free random things of cargo, so you can just easily sell whatever like comes with it when you first buy it, and you could probably easily get the trade price there. But yeah, next thing I have, of course, for pros is it can be a strategic vehicle if used well. Not as strategic as something like a thruster, of course, but it definitely still has some quite unique properties with like the gimbal turret being able to shoot at such great angles and degrees and stuff like that, and as well with its slight stealth capabilities. Those two things together can definitely give this vehicle quite some versatility for sure, regardless. But yeah, next pro I have is it's still able to be used in passive mode, which is really interesting. Because obviously, as I showed in that one clip, it says that passive mode is disabled with vehicles that have like weapons on it. As I've shown in other reviews, of course, it's not the only vehicle where you can go in passive mode, even though it does have weapons on it, even though pretty much every vehicle with weapons on it isn't supposed to have passive mode anymore. But yeah, that's definitely another something for when it comes to pros for sure. But yeah, next pro I have is it has great customization, and I put in parentheses for an aircraft because obviously like a lot of the land vehicles have a lot better customizations than this. But the customizations for an air vehicle is definitely quite impressive, I would say. And I think it's the only vehicle that comes to mind where you can actually customize the propellers, which is quite interesting for sure. And the next pro I have is it has a pretty unique weapon. As I mentioned, the Gimbal Turret, being able to shoot all kinds of angles and degrees, but yeah, I don't think any ever like vehicle in the game has a weapon called the Gimbal Turret either. So it's kind of a pretty unique weapon in a sense. But yeah, next pro I have is it has pretty good handling, and obviously that might depend on like the upgrade you choose when it comes to the like handling or whatever. But yeah, next pro I have is it can glide when heavily damaged and disabled. So even if you get really shot up by like a police helicopter, which trust me, a police helicopter can definitely be quite annoying to deal with on the ultralight for sure. It should be able to glide for a while longer if it does get disabled. Yeah, it's definitely quite nice as you get quite the like opportunity to still glide with it and stuff if it gets disabled. I mean, it kind of takes quite the effort for it to get destroyed as well, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, regardless, it is still very fragile. Next pro I have is it has slight stealth capabilities, and it requires a low speed maximum, I put in parentheses as well. But yeah, of course if you stay under a certain speed, you'll be able to be stealth, and that's with a very specific like propeller as well, which I'll probably be going into later on in the pro list. Yeah, next pro I have is it was the first stealth aircraft in the game. And right now in the game, I believe there's only 2 stealth aircraft or stealth vehicles altogether. Being the Ultralight and then the Kula, I believe. Which, the Kula is very obviously much better off than with the Ultralight, which I'll be going into more details with later for sure. Yeah, next pro I have is it has customizable propellers, as I kind of mentioned earlier. I can't think of any other vehicle in the game that actually lets you customize its propellers. That's definitely quite awesome. Next pro I have is the Muffled Carbon Prop allows for slight stealth capabilities. So yeah, you do have to pay for the stealth capabilities on this vehicle. Whereas with the Akula mentioned earlier, of course, you don't have to pay for stealth capabilities. You just like press one button and it goes in stealth mode, and it comes with the vehicle, I'm very positive. So yeah, for this vehicle, you have to pay a few $100,000 for the like propeller that allows you to be stealth, but still, it's something quite worth it to make the vehicle more unique, of course, for sure. Next pro I have is the Gimbal Turret provides decent damage to vehicles. As I've shown off, the weapon's really good. The big problem is it's going to be really hard to destroy ground targets, obviously, with this vehicle, because it's mainly going to be in the air. So it's mainly going to be for air vehicles, of course, that are actually in the air with you as well. But even then, there's not a lot of like missions and stuff that I feel will even use that kind of feature, where it has like enemies with aircrafts. Unless you're doing like the air freight source mission, that's probably the most use you'll get out of the vehicle in that regard. And then next pro I have is it has surprising explosive resistance. As I mentioned earlier, the explosive resistance is actually pretty surprising. However, that might only even matter when you're like outside the vehicle. When you're in the vehicle, the same homing launcher would like just kill you even if it doesn't destroy the aircraft. So kind of like gets rid of the purpose of it having explosive resistance, I would imagine. But yeah, I don't see the explosive resistance, as I mentioned, even mattering much. Because yeah, you would probably just die anyways, even though the vehicle would still survive. But still, that's a pro regardless, I would say. But yeah, next pro I have for it is it can be pretty decent for business source missions with stealth capabilities. Which, especially as I mentioned, it's very good for the air freight source missions for sure. However, as I mentioned, the Akula is much better in that regard, and even with all the other businesses, it's much better to go with an Akula. So literally just press the button. And with that stealth mode on the Akula, you can actually like get police helicopters off of you, basically reducing a 3-star 1 level to a 2-star 1 level. Whereas with the Ultralight being speed-based, I don't think it would really matter in that case. But yeah, before we go back into pros and cons, I'll explain the air freight source mission I'm doing right now. So the air freight source mission I got is the one where you have to do like the stunting stuff or whatever for the entitled teams or whatever. Not entirely sure what that source mission's called, if it has much of a like official name. But still, basically you just do a lot of stunts and stuff like that. Sadly, you can't really do much like advanced maneuvers with the ultralight, so you pretty much have to like go under bridges in this one. But yeah, thankfully I got really good like source mission to show off with the ultralight. I'm sure a lot of source missions aren't very good to do with an ultralight, so thankfully I got this one because it's a pretty easy one for the ultralight. Not a lot of PvE, if any, at all. It's pretty much just destroying like the one vehicle if you want to like deliver the like cargo with the actual aircraft, not like the mule or whatever it's inside. And by the way, as you can see there, I'm in a public lobby. I did go assisted impartial as well, because I definitely think that's the most like dangerous kind of lobbies. And yeah, I'm sure assisting full and partial are grouped together, similar to Freedom and Freedom Assisted. So yeah, I tried to make sure it was as hell-bent as possible. Tried going for a very full lobby, and thankfully I did get a very full lobby. And to my surprise, no one even went after me in an almost 30-player lobby in a sustained partial. But yeah, obviously it depends on the like session you're in and stuff like that. I was so disappointed that I eventually like went to a player that was really red on the map or whatever, because obviously they were very psychotic. Their mental state was really psychotic or whatever. And yeah, they did kind of go after me. So I did try to show off the stealth capabilities there if that does make it into the video. But obviously I'm only going to be like trying to use as much footage as I need for a pros and cons list. But yeah, as I mentioned, it's going to be very situational if the ultralight's going to be good for a air freight source mission or not. Obviously there's a lot of different source missions for every business. And obviously for like the special cargo business, it can be good as well if it's any of the ones that like require you to pick up cargo. But obviously it also depends on like the PvE objectives and stuff like that, if it's even going to be good for those. And then when it comes to sourcing missions, other sourcing missions, it can be okay for some like biker and bunker sourcing missions. But obviously for passive businesses like the biker business and the bunker business, you're better off just buying supplies and making the money back through other methods while your supplies produces. So I just would not even bother sourcing for biker and bunker for sure. And yeah, as for import-export, I don't even think it's going to be good at all for import-export. And there's no other business that really comes to mind, so I think I pretty much explained every business here. So yeah, now I'll be going back to the pros and cons list. But yeah, last pro I have is it can make public sessions less worrisome. As I'm showing off here, I'm in a almost full lobby in an assisted impartial lobby. And as you can see, there's people killing each other and stuff, but for whatever reason, no one went after me. And as you can see, I'm going like full speed, so I'm not even using like stealth capabilities. And I don't even have the package yet, so it's not like I have the global signal or whatever on me just yet. But yeah, as I mentioned, I believe I have 17 cons. So yeah, first con is that it became highly outclassed the update after. The reason this vehicle became highly outclassed the update after, of course, is because what update was after Smuggler's Run? It was the Doomsday Heist. And the Doomsday Heist is what brought the Kula, as mentioned before. And that's the ultimate stealth aircraft, and it's like the last stealth aircraft we even got. And yeah, the Akula has missiles and stuff like that, so obviously it makes it a lot more useful, and it's also a helicopter as well. So pretty much everything about the Akula is like entirely better than the Ultralight. So yeah, sadly, the update after Ultralight became highly outclassed. Second con I have is it can be hard to use the Gimbal Turret on ground targets. I've kind of been mentioning this with a couple like points I've been making earlier. But yeah, it's not really going to be good for a lot of PvE situations, just simply because the gun's not going to be very good for PvE. I don't know if I showed off the gun very much on any of these clips, but yeah. As I mentioned earlier, they messed up the camera at some point after its initial release. The camera for third person used to be more on the side. Now it's kind of a little more centered. And the vehicle kind of gets in the way. But yeah, I tried third and first person views with the gun, and even in first person view I wasn't really having a much easy time trying to shoot things. In fact, I think I do shoot the mule in this to get the package into Ultralight for the air freight source mission. So yeah, I should be showing off the third and first person cameras for the Ultralight. So yeah, it should show that it's not very good for ground targets. And obviously, as I mentioned, I could have won on the ground. I think it would have been very unfair to use on the ground because obviously it's an air vehicle, and you're mainly going to be in air using this thing. But yeah, third con I have is the gun camera is downgraded. Used to be more on the side, as I mentioned earlier. I pretty much mentioned everything I need to say there, so I'm just going to say the con there and move on to the next. Next con I have is it cannot do many advanced maneuvers, and in parentheses I put knife lights and loops, etc. So yeah, as you can see on the map, I believe there's like pink dots for like night fights. But yeah, this thing's really going to struggle with night fights. I believe initially you can do night fights, but eventually the vehicle will correct itself. But yeah, the vehicle auto-stabilizes and corrects itself quite, like, it does it quite fast that you're not really going to be able to get away with doing much advanced maneuvers. And yeah, you're probably not really going to do much of a loop-de-loop because by the time you're going to be about to complete a loop-de-loop, it's probably going to correct itself to be back like right side up. So yeah, sadly you're going to be really limited in advanced maneuvers with this vehicle. But yeah, next con I have is it cannot reach maximum height. So yeah, its maximum height is quite lower than the other vehicles in the game. I cannot think of other vehicles in the game at the moment, if there is any at all, that cannot like reach maximum height. This is the only aircraft I can think of that actually cannot reach maximum height. Obviously there might be another one in the game, but as far as I can think of, there is not any other aircraft that can't reach maximum height, so it's kind of the one that can't do that. So yeah, if there's like free mode events going on and stuff like that, which requires you to parachute as like high as possible or whatever that free mode event thing is, it's not going to be a very good vehicle for that. For example, next con I have is it can be annoying to turn. But yeah, it can take a while to get a good turn going with this vehicle in some cases. Sometimes it's pretty good at turning, other times I feel it's not though. That might just be what I've personally noticed, but yeah. I don't think it's the best vehicle at all when it comes to turning for sure. There's definitely surely other like aircrafts that can do better in that, even when it comes to like an actual plane. But yeah, next con I have is it has a 5-minute cooldown. Now I get it, it's because it's a personal aircraft that has the 5-minute cooldown. But it would be cool if this was like the jetpack where it can be spawned on foot, because this vehicle is not really overpowered at all, so it wouldn't hurt to let this vehicle spawn on foot, and as I mentioned, it's really good at taking off. So I wish it kind of made this like an on-foot spawn, so it has like a 2-minute cooldown. So it can be kind of comparable to the thruster jetpack, like I mentioned earlier, for example. But yeah, having a 5-minute cooldown on a like very underwhelming vehicle like this is quite disappointing. But still, technically using that logic, you could say that vehicles like the Hydra and stuff, because they can like hover and stuff like that, should be able to actually like be spawned on foot. So it's probably better that it has to be spawned like away from you or whatever. It's definitely probably better off like that, so that other vehicles that are actually overpowered cannot be spawned on foot. But yeah, next con I have is it has more limited spawning. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't spawn on foot, it only spawns in like the very particular like locations that personal aircraft spawn at. So for example, some spawn points are like the Vinewood racetrack. There's places in like the docks that it can spawn at. It can spawn at Fort Zancudo if you have a Fort Zancudo hangar. Same with LSIA, it can spawn there if you have an LSIA hangar. Stuff like that. Obviously it has more limited spawns like that. So obviously it's going to be like more like not as accessible as other vehicles, for example. Yeah, next con I have is that it requires a hangar and hangar workshop. Obviously you need a hangar just to even own the vehicle, and then you also need a hangar workshop to customize the vehicle as well, make it actually like a viable vehicle. So yeah, it is behind at least one paywall just to own the vehicle, which for a vehicle like this is kind of disappointing. I wish they did it like with other aircrafts, like aircrafts that were before Smuggler's Run. Of course, you have to like get it through Pegasus, then you have to take it to the hangar. Like yeah, most of them have like no customizations, obviously, if not like all of those vehicles. But it wouldn't have hurt to make all these like personal aircrafts able to be Pegasus vehicles, like without the guns and stuff like that, and you could take it in the hangar. Then you can customize it. So technically, you wouldn't need a hangar just to even purchase the vehicle. But yeah, it does have a paywall, which kind of sucks. But yeah, next con I have is it has terrible performance, worst top speed in class. But yeah, as I mentioned, it has the worst top speed in the whole like planes class, and it has like the 5th worst lap time as well. Obviously, I didn't expect this vehicle to be very good, but still, obviously, it's a con, and it doesn't have very good performance regardless. But if you want to get this vehicle, don't get it for performance, get it for like its weaponry and stuff like that for sure. Next con I have is it's terrible at landing. But yeah, it's really good at taking off, but the bad thing is it's really bad at landing. I think I've had like one time where it's had like a smooth landing the whole time I was like filming the review. Aside from that, I don't recall like landing being anywhere near as easy as taking off. Landing is much more annoying for sure in my opinion than taking off. That definitely sucks, but if that's what it has to have in order for it to be good at takeoffs, then that's kind of a good trade-off, I would be quite honest there. But yeah, next con is it cannot use drive-by weapons. So just to even use weapons at all, you will have to get the Gimbal Turret. Or at least I'm pretty sure you can't use drive-by weapons if you don't have a Gimbal Turret. I'm very doubtful if you remove the Gimbal Turret, it would let you use drive-by weapons similar to the thruster, where even if it doesn't have weapons, you can't use drive-by weapons on a thruster, for example. So yeah, it's definitely quite unfortunate. I can understand them disabling like sticky bombs and stuff like that, because that could be overpowered with its stealth capabilities. But yeah. Regardless, not being able to use like submachine guns and stuff like that in the vehicle is definitely quite disappointing if you don't want to go with the Gimbal Turret. But yeah. Next con I have is it's very fragile, as I mentioned before. That's the reason I tested it with an advanced rifle and up in the atomizer as well, because I knew it would be pretty fragile, similar to a thruster jetpack. But yeah, with an advanced rifle, for example, it took like 600 rounds to destroy that, and I was shooting it in its like weakest spot, I'm pretty sure. It only took like 20 up in atomizer shots to destroy it as well. So yeah, it is definitely very fragile, and as I mentioned, if you like have a police helicopter on you, it's gonna be very annoying for sure, because the police helicopter might shoot the engine so bad that's eventually going to disable the vehicle within a couple minutes. But yeah, next con I have is it can be shot out somewhat easily. So yeah, you're probably going to get shot out very well through this vehicle, of course. Which, with how open it is, it goes back to one of my previous cons or whatever. Or like the Pro even, where I said like it has pricing explosive resistance. But yeah, with how open the vehicle is, even with the explosive resistance, like is there even a point in it having explosive resistance? Because aren't you just gonna die anyways? I can see with the explosive sniper, someone might have to actually shoot you instead of like the engine. But with other things like a homing launcher, even if the engine gets shot, I would imagine you would get killed in the process as well. But yeah, that goes into my next con actually, is explosive resistance is very useless when flown. Because as I mentioned, if you're going to get hit by a homing launcher, aren't you actually going to die even though the vehicle will probably survive if it hasn't even got hit by an explosive before? So exactly what's the point of the explosive resistance of the vehicle at all if it only would matter if you're not in the vehicle? But yeah, regardless, it's nice it has explosive resistance, but I don't even see it being very useful personally. But yeah, next con I have is stealth capabilities have to be paid for, unlike the Akula, which the Akula of course came out after this vehicle. And the Akula actually comes with its stealth capabilities, and it's already at the press of a button. whereas this one you have to stay under certain speeds and stuff like that. It's definitely quite inconvenient for getting around the map as well, but it is kind of a nice trade-off. And with it being the first stealth vehicle, I guess it can be kind of understanding. But yeah, last con is it's not very good at making money. So yeah, sadly, if you expect to make money at all with this vehicle, just don't expect that, honestly. You're better off not expecting to make money with this vehicle, because quite frankly, it's very limited in terms of its money-making capabilities. As I mentioned, Sightseer is basically going to be your best way of making money. When it comes to the air freight business stuff, as I'm showing, yeah, when it comes to air freight business, it's going to highly depend on, like, the sourcing mission you even get. And as for assault missions, the vehicles are, like, predetermined, and you basically have to use the, like, vehicle that's given for a assault mission. So yeah, sadly this vehicle is not very good at all for making money, but still it's better than the invade and persuade tank, where the interaction menu literally has to glitch up to allow you to like go in the interaction menu with RC vehicle, even for that vehicle just to even be able to make money. So it's not the worst vehicle for sure when it comes to making money, but it's definitely down there as one of the worst, I would imagine, vehicles for making money. But yeah, that's finally going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed.